The 1970s in America were years of upheaval. Vietnam burned in the headlines, Watergate shattered faith in politics, and the counterculture cracked apart. Amid this chaos, fear began to seep into college campuses and quiet suburbs. Women disappeared, seemingly at random, leaving behind no trace but their absence. Police reports multiplied, parents panicked, and students whispered of a stranger handsome, charming, intelligent who was always there, offering a smile, a helping hand, a false sense of safety. His name was Theodore Robert Bundy. The world would come to know him as Ted Bundy, the campus killer, a man whose boyish looks and charisma masked one of the most sadistic killers in American history. The charmer in disguise. Bundy was born in Burlington, Vermont in 1946. Raised under complex family circumstances, believing for years that his grandparents were his parents, and that his mother was his sister, he grew into a boy described as intelligent but troubled. By the time he entered adulthood, he cultivated the image of the all-American student, well-dressed, articulate, studying law, involved in politics. Friends and acquaintances described him as kind, ambitious, even magnetic. Women found him attractive. Men found him approachable. What no one realized was that beneath his polished exterior, a darkness grew. Bundy developed a method of luring victims that played upon his charm. He often wore a fake cast or sling, pretending to be injured. Then he would approach young women in public places, libraries, college campuses, parking lots, asking for help, loading books, or carrying items to his car. His Volkswagen Beetle became his trap, a mobile coffin for dozens of victims. The first disappearances, the early 1970s, saw a disturbing pattern in Washington state. Young women vanished without warning, most of them college students. In January 1974, Linda Ann Healy disappeared from her basement room in Seattle. Her bed was neatly made, her pillow bloodied, her bicycle gone. Months later, others followed. Donna Gail Manson in March, Susan Rancourt in April, Roberta Parks in May. By June, the disappearances accelerated. Women vanished in Oregon and Washington, always young, attractive, with long straight hair parted in the middle, the Bundy type. Then came July 14th, 1974. In broad daylight, on Lake Sammamish, near Seattle, thousands gathered for a summer outing. Two young women, Janice O.T. and Denise Nasland, vanished the same day. Witnesses recalled a tall, handsome man with an arm in a sling, introducing himself as Ted. He asked women for help loading a sailboat into his Volkswagen Beetle. OTT and Nasland never returned. By now, fear spread like wildfire. The predator was no longer invisible. He had a name, a face, a voice, and yet he still roamed free. Crossing state lines, Bundy relocated to Utah in September 1974, enrolling in law school. The disappearances followed. In October, 18-year-old Melissa Smith vanished in Midvale, her body later found in the mountains. Then Laura Aim, 17, disappeared and was found bludgeoned to death. Bundy's killings grew bolder, more brutal. In November, Carol Durang, a resourceful young woman, narrowly escaped his grasp. He had posed as a police officer, luring her into his car. She managed to leap from the vehicle, providing police their first detailed description of the predator. Still, Bundy remained elusive. He blended into his surroundings with uncanny ease. The Colorado killings. Bundy moved again, this time to Colorado. There, his violence escalated further. In January 1975, Karen Campbell disappeared from a hotel in Aspen. Her body was found weeks later. Others followed: Julie Cunningham, Denise Oliverson, Lynette Culver. The West was now haunted by his trail of terror. Each case followed a chillingly similar pattern: abduction, bludgeoning, strangulation, and, in many cases, necrophilia. Bundy often revisited his victims' remains, an act of possession as much as murder. Arrests and escapes, Bundy's arrogance became his undoing. In August 1975, he was stopped in Utah by police who found burglary tools and suspicious items in his car. Soon, he was linked to Duranch's kidnapping. In 1976, he was convicted of abduction. While awaiting trial for murder charges in Colorado, he managed to escape twice. The first time, he leaped from a courthouse window during a recess. Recaptured 6 days later, he escaped again months later by sawing through a ceiling vent in his cell. By December 1977, Bundy was on the run. The Florida rampage in January 1978. Bundy surfaced in Florida under the alias Chris Hagen. On the night of January 15th, he broke into the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. What followed was a bloodbath. He bludgeoned and strangled two women, Margaret Bowman and Lisa Lavond, attacked to more. The brutality was staggering. Bite marks on one victim would later prove critical in linking Bundy to the crimes. 2 weeks later, Bundy abducted 12-year-old Kimberly Leach, his youngest known victim. Her body was found weeks later in a pigsty. Capture and trial. Bundy's reckless violence in Florida finally caught up to him. In February 1978, he was arrested after a traffic stop. Unlike his earlier trials, this time the evidence was overwhelming. Bundy, ever arrogant, chose to represent himself in court. The trial became a spectacle, broadcast on national television. He cross-examined witnesses, smiled for cameras, and proposed marriage to a former girlfriend, Carol Ann Boone, in the middle of proceedings. In July 1979, Bundy was convicted for the Chi Omega murders. In 1980, he was sentenced to death for Kimberly Leach's murder. The confessions for nearly a decade, Bundy lived on death row. He granted interviews, corresponded with admirers, and continued to play mind games with authorities. Only in the final days before his execution in January 1999 did he begin confessing to his true crimes. Bundy admitted to at least 30 murders across 7 states, though investigators believe the real number could be higher. His victims were often young women who resembled one another, reflecting his twisted obsessions, execution, and legacy. On January 24, 1989, Ted Bundy was executed in the electric chair at Florida State Prison. Crowds cheered outside, holding signs reading "Burn, Bundy, burn." His legacy, however, remains darkly influential. Bundy epitomized the serial killer next door, charming, intelligent, hiding in plain sight. Instead, he showed that it could wear a friendly smile. Books, documentaries, and films continue to dissect his life. From The Stranger Beside Me by an Earl to Netflix's Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes. For criminologists, Bundy remains a case study in manipulation, psychopathy, and narcissism. For the public, he remains a chilling reminder that monsters can live among us. The questions that linger: how many victims were there, truly? Could Bundy have been stopped sooner if law enforcement had better communication across states? How many women's names will never be known, erased by his violence? Ted Bundy's story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. Evil can be ordinary, charming, even seductive. And sometimes it is those who smile the widest who hide the deepest darkness. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Crimson Narratives Behind Every Familiar Face. There may be a story too terrifying to imagine.